All right, good morning everyone, and thank you so much for being here today. I'm Cameron Campbell, President of United Way of Florence County, and we're very excited to host this results-based accountability training today for current partner agencies as well as nonprofit organizations serving Florence County who are interested in seeking United Way funding. We have been on this journey toward collective impact since 2022. So we're just under 3 years actively working on this, and we have come a really long way in that time. And so I'm very excited for you to hear about or get some more in-depth information on some of the key differences between our traditional community chest model and the new collective impact model that we're going to be in operation on very soon. So quickly, I want to give a collective impact update, which I think is going to give you guys some context moving into the rest of the program. Of course, we have Holly Hayes here this morning, who's going to lead the discussion on results-based accountability, or RBA. I was able to hear Holly give a similar presentation for United Way of Horry County, and she did a really great job, and so I think you guys are going to really enjoy the program today, get a lot out of it. So quickly on collective impact, as I mentioned, we've been working on it for nearly 3 years now. One key thing that I want to point out this morning is our new application. We've got that provided for you. This will look probably similar to other applications that you've completed before for other organizations. For anyone who has previously applied for United Way funding, this will look just a little bit different than what you're used to from us. But the main difference is the addition of the RBA metrics. And so where that has been very open-ended in the past, you know, the application questions have been what goals do you have for your program, and what are you going to measure within your program? How are you going to measure that? So instead of it being open-ended, we've got some suggested metrics that we'd ask partner agencies and funded organizations to track, again, which we'll get more into later on in the program. But that's really the key difference. Everything else is fairly straightforward and shouldn't be anything that you haven't seen before. And then the other key difference moving forward is how we're going to be applying for funding in the future. So anyone, again, who has done it in the past would know that it has been a very manual process. It's been like a Word document or PDF that you complete maybe in Word, maybe by hand, and you email it back in. So we have an exciting new grant management software called ISI Impact, and we're going to have a demonstration on that at the end of the program today. But what that's going to do is kind of bring us to current day technology standards. It's going to make things easier for you. You can kind of save as you go, and it's going to make it easier for us on the data aggregation side of things, which is what collective impact is all about, right? We really want to be able to demonstrate our impact that we have on the community working together, and this is going to really help make sure that that happens. And with that, I will turn it over to Holly Hayes, who is going to carry us through all the results-based accountability. So everyone please give Holly a warm welcome.
So, welcome everybody. So we're going to start today when you really think about results-based accountability, y'all. I mean, you can read the book. I think now there's a supplement and there are lots of things. But at the end of the day, results-based accountability is all about how you think, okay? It's just a disciplined way of thinking. All right, so I mean, there's lots of different things. So to warm up this, I'd like us to do just some group. Most of you probably know each other at your group, but we're going to do a little warm-up conversation. So I don't know about you, but as I get older, I get a little more set in my ways, right? Some things I'm like, now I'm talking about all those young people, and that used to be me, right? So what I want us to do is at your table, I'd like you to think about 3 things about yourself, y'all, because when we're thinking about disciplined thinking, you're thinking about your own mindset, right? And it starts from the top and then it trickles down. So I want you to think about 3 components of you: head, hand, heart. And you may have to write it down because I didn't do a slide this morning on this, sorry. Head, hand, heart. So your head is, what is something you know an awful lot about? Okay? And it doesn't have to be work related. I know every stat for the Clemson football team. Or head could be, for me, I know a lot about the book of Revelation, right? Whatever it is, whatever you're thinking that you know a lot about, head, right? Hand, it's something, what's a physical gift that you have? For me, I like doing photography, right? Some of you are great working with cars or making banana pudding, whatever it could be. Hand, what's something, a talent that you have with your hands? And heart is, what would you be willing to walk across hot coals for? Like, I am so passionate about this, right? For me, it's health equity. I believe everybody should have. I'm very passionate about health equity. For you, it could be a different topic, but what's something that's your heart, okay? And y'all, we all probably have family, but if it's your heart, that's good, right? So we got your head, hand, heart. Everybody got it? So I'm going to give you just 30 seconds of silence to think through what are your 3, when you think about you, January 27th, 2025, what's something you know a lot about? What is a talent that you have? And what's one of your passions? And just write that down. All right, hopefully somebody's got something. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to invite you to stand up and find somebody you haven't talked to in the last 2 weeks, right? You may not know it all, or you just haven't talked to in the last 2 weeks. And you're going to introduce yourself or just say, hey, and I'd like you to share your the 3 components, something, your head, hand, and heart. This is a physical activity. You're getting up. You're going to already have a lot of activities at your table today. So y'all go ahead and mix it up, okay? Talk to someone not at your table. Stand up and share your 3 components. All right. Well, hopefully y'all enjoyed that activity. And the thing I just want to tell y'all, that a lot of the work you do, a lot of times you're focused on what are we doing on this, right? So it's so outward focused. But y'all, we are multidimensional people, right? And may know me as ISI Consulting or this, but I've got other things, right? We've got all these other things. So it's just important as you work with your board, as you work with advisory groups, as you work with your team members and volunteers, to remember, y'all, that we are we have multiple dimensions. And when I think about commitment of anything requires those 3 things, right? You need your head, the hand, and the heart. And when you have all 3 components, that's when it's really helping with commitment and lasting change. So thanks. Hopefully you learned something there. So we have 3 objectives today. I want to increase your confidence in using RBA in your group. Probably everybody in here has heard the term RBA, or results-based accountability. Is that right? Y'all heard it. So hopefully your confidence meter will go up a few points. I want you to recognize how this is all connected to collective impact, your mission, and all the things. And then just want you to be excited. Today you are going to have an opportunity to give input on the draft metrics, which I think is great. So before they're just like, hey, there you go. Get it? That's what you need. Y'all are going to be able to give input, okay? So y'all speak now or forever hold your peace. Don't say it's fine and then a month later go, well, how in the Hades would we even collect that? Or the number would only be 2 for the whole year. That's not going to give us much information, right? So we want to give metrics that are going to help with that. All right, so the focus areas in Florence County with the United Way are these 5 areas. And so later today, we are going to get into breakout groups for these areas. But right now, you can be where you are. So the question is, how do we get from ideas to action? All of us have had lots of ideas, but how do we get the action and what we want to go from that? So the foundation for results-based accountability is we use data as a catalyst at the beginning of the process. All right? So when you're thinking of this disciplined way of thinking, you're thinking through, well, what data do we have available? So in Florence County, what data do y'all use often? What are the sources for data? Anybody? Y'all have a community health needs assessment? Y'all got one? Okay. Who in here knows how to even access it or find it? One. Okay. Where is it, sir? It's on the web. Okay. What else do y'all have? What other data do y'all just have readily available in Florence? Census, right? Community health needs assessment data. There are probably lots of them, but the key is to have the data, y'all. And when I say data, I don't mean 1 or 2 data points. When you're doing results-based accountability and this stuff, you have a minimum of 8 to 10 data points. There's typically 5 years of data. You're looking at stuff, okay? Then you're really working to understand the story behind the baselines. And we're going to talk about that, but that's really getting at the root causes. Right? Well, you hear this story, but this is really about something else, right? It's bringing together people because y'all are dealing with complex challenges, right? If it was simple and easy, it would have already been done, right? So it's going to take a lot of people working together. Then you're going to consider what works. And the thing I was drawn to results-based accounting for is the action piece. Because I'm a type A, my nickname in childhood was Freight Train Holly. It's probably not a good one, but I mean, I just want to get things done, right? So the whole point of this, y'all, you may think, oh my goodness, RBA metrics or data and like, ugh. But the whole point of all this, y'all, is the action. But your action is grounded. And y'all, if the thing is here, this is where it may be a little hard, you may have been doing actions in your organization or with your group for a long time that are not yielding fruit anymore, right? But we are emotionally attached to it, right? You got your license in it, your certificate in it. We've been doing this. So some of the results-based accountability work may shed light on something. Y'all, the juice isn't worth the squeeze anymore. We need to stop this, right? And it may be hard because you're going to have to rebudget some things. You may have to I don't know what will happen. But the thing is, we can't get emotionally attached to our programs, activities, some things we do if they're not yielding what we need them to anymore, right? Because what is the new thing in 2024, 2025? What's something right now that a lot of folks are talking about that you may or may not have used? AI. Okay? I just used AI yesterday to write an obituary. It's kind of weird, but it did work, y'all. Put all the phrases in, model it after this. So, y'all, there could be some things, right? You've always had a person, a volunteer you spend time on. But I just want you to think about in 2025, what are the new trends? What are the things, how can you leverage things that are already at your disposal that you can use? I personally spend $35 a year right now for the Chat GPT 2.5. And it's amazing, I'm telling you. It does my minutes for me. I change it up. I mean, you could plug data in it and tell it to write your report. I mean, there's lots of things, but you're just wanting to think. And y'all, I know there's lots of other challenges with it. But I want you to think about whatever's holding you back. It could be manpower, time, expertise in some areas. How can you use what's new in 2025 to your advantage to better help you get informed data and take action quicker, right? Because y'all, the thing with this is you want to make quick decision making, but it's informed, right? We're not going to look at data once a year or when we turn it into a grant, right? We're going to look at it multiple times, make pivots, and then keep going. So let's just start with the quiz, and let's see if we get better with this. How many times do you do RBA in a year? You know, Cameron's already shared, you got the application now. What's the, let me make sure I got my question right. Quiz here. How many times do you need to go through the RBA process in a year? Before I even start the training, let's see where we are. Just call out some numbers. 3? That's good.
Do it 4.
4? Anybody else want to guess? Nobody saying 1 or 2? Okay. The answer is it really depends, right? Depends on how many activities or initiatives your group's doing, right? So your group may be doing a massive whatever. You may only do it 2 times a year or 4 times. So there's not a number that you have to do RBA. But I will tell you, if you know me anytime, like with my group or whatever, I'm always in the spirit of quality improvement, right? What could we do better? How can we improve? You know, that looks a little wonky. What can we change, right? So when you think about it that way, if it's a disciplined way of thinking, you're doing it all the time, but you do need to set aside specific time where you're really looking at it, okay? So, and then the key, y'all, is that you can go through the whole RBA framework, which is this worksheet with the light bulb on it. That's our Sparky logo. It gives you a spark. You can go through this thing, y'all, in less than an hour. Like at the end of the day, going through the whole RBA framework, now it depends if you have your data and some of the pieces, but you could facilitate this process and go through it with your team in an hour or less. Praise the Lord. Doesn't that sound good to everybody? It's not going to take a whole day retreat. Now, I will tell you, we'll talk about it. I spent 4 hours Saturday in Hilton Head with the group, and we just worked on one piece, right? They were really struggling with one y'all might know very well. It's on the back page. Who are the partners that have a role to play? Okay, it was a nonprofit doing work for 20 years, and they really wanted to revisit who are the more appropriate partners to do our work. So each of these squares, there are all these facilitated activities and tools and resources where you could even break down partners to who are the core partners, who are our champions, who are the people who just need information, who are our wild cards. Right? They put some Nobel Peace Prize winner who's got a house in Hilton Head as a wild card, right? They might be something. But each of these squares, you can break it down into going as deep as you want to. Okay? So with that, y'all, do you think you can commit in your group to spending an hour or less on RBA this year? Y'all, that didn't sound very good. But okay, good. All right. Woo! All right, so there's a key difference, and when I read this in the book and saw this, I went, duh. There's a difference between programs and populations, all right? So has your program ever been asked to prove its impact to the community? Am I getting groans or anything? Y'all have, right? But programs are possible of doing something, but you're only directly impacting the people who are part of your program. Right? So the question is, how in the Hades does my little 10 people I worked with in this program have any impact on the population, right? And I remember when I just gotten out of grad school and worked for the March of Dimes, and I was the director of grants, you know, in my 20s, telling these nonprofits, well, you have to prove all this. And I only gave them $10,000, right? Like, No, just, they would go with it, right? But y'all, there's a difference, right? So the thing with RBA is saying, do we need some kick butt programs in Florence County? We do. And we also need the community improvement. But for us to say they're the same thing, that's asinine, right? They're different. So the thing with results-based accountability is we're making a clear distinction between population indicators, right? We're having things, and then program. Who are my mental health folks in the room? Mental health, raise your hand, right? If we just look at the trends for mental health, what are the trends doing in Florence County, South Carolina, and in the nation for mental health? They're going up, right? It's getting worse and worse. So do we automatically say that table isn't doing anything? They're just doing a horrible job over there because the trends are going this way. Right, that doesn't make any sense, right? Your trends for national things, but you could have some bright spots in Florence County that are amazing, right? And you are seeing like, oh my goodness, we're doing this strategy or multi-pronged approach, and you know what? It is working, right? But the key is to say that we're putting all the pressure on one program in a community to solve mental health. Right? What's going to be needed, y'all, for mental health trends to change in Florence County? More people working together? Is it just the mental health folks? Right. It's the education, housing, right? All these things are braided and tied together. Okay? And so that's one thing I like. So this is just an example. There was a foundation trying to reduce violence rates in a large city. Right? They had a grant-making agenda, they had mentoring, mediation, alternative dispute resolution, but they had it all going on, right? Their foundation was solely focused on that. But they were puzzled because the rates of violence were not going down, right? Like, what in the world? We've been working on it for a year or 2 years, right? Now it's like laughable. But the deal is, y'all, they were doing a great work. But the missing piece is you need a comprehensive strategy that's just not the foundation doing their thing, right? You need the city government, policies, all these different pieces, community policing, gun control, recreation activities for teenagers, right? There are all these different pieces, right, that fit into it, okay? So when you think about that, when I describe this, what does that sound like? And you have all these different groups all aligning to work on reducing violence. Cameron mentioned it this morning. What was it? Collective impact, right? So you kind of see now potentially how collective impact and results-based accountability are connected, right? It's collective impact is great, right? And we're all focused on it. But if you're just focused on that big indicator, Baltimore still got violence right now, right? Right? Their city of Baltimore is still struggling, right? But the results-based accountability is, we're still going to look at that, but what could we do better, right? And are the folks in our programs and activities and interventions better off because of the activities we're doing? Okay? So they're connected. So the things we're going to look at is we're going to look at 7 questions that you can think through as you go through this, and y'all have your worksheets too. All right. So first is the objectives of RBA. They're 4-pronged or 5-pronged. We're going to get a basic understanding of some of the pieces on this slide. All right. The first is, how are we doing? Okay? Now, I want to tell you, as we go through this, you may struggle with one of these questions more than another, and somebody else is like, oh my goodness, I got that. We know how to do that, so y'all can help each other. But when we're thinking about it, you want to look at the history, right? And this is where I say, oftentimes, I would love us to have at least 5 years of data to really see how are we doing. Because y'all, something could be trending in the wrong direction, right? But we're trying to think about, well, what would be needed for us to turn the curve and change that data to the other direction? okay? And that becomes your return on investment. So if we think about this, do we often look at data? But what part could be missing in this whole thing? We're looking at the data potentially. What's the part that's missing? Analyze that. I say a lot of times we have data, but we're not making the data dance, y'all. We're not like thinking about like, well, what's this happening or what's this, right? And I want us to get beyond COVID. It's because of COVID. It's because of COVID. COVID is real. I had a flashback of it with the children all at home with the snow and ice. I thought, oh my goodness, can I make it 3 days, right? I was like, oh goodness, I'm ready for everybody to get back to school. But y'all, we need to think about pre-COVID, COVID, but we're in post-COVID, right? And I also want to think about our world has changed because of COVID, but the thinking is you're looking at the data, okay? I also want to say you as leaders are not the only people who need to look at your data, right? Your whole team, your volunteers, different people can think about things differently, right? You want to make that data dance. All right, the next thing is you want to think about what is the story behind the curve, okay? So with this is you're going to move from all that quantitative data, you got percentages and rates and numbers, and you just want to tell the story, all right? So for this, you're thinking about root cause analysis. Now, results-based accountability, they called it a force field analysis. Y'all, it's very technical, but it's really not. It's you got your issue. What are the things, what are some facilitators that are helping like alleviate that issue? Some of you want to go up an area or down. And then what are the things restricting it, right? What are those things holding it back? Okay, so when you're thinking about it, let's do literacy levels, all right, for education. What are some things, what's something that's causing it harder for kindergartners to be reading? What's holding it back? Family's a good thing, so be a little more descriptive. Single family homes, okay? What else? They can't hear. Screen time. Anybody else got one? What's something that's restricting or holding back more preschool, kindergarten age children from reading? Undiagnosed disabilities. Yeah. So then when you have all that, the key with root cause analysis is you just keep asking why. Well, why are there so many single family homes? Right? Well, why is this? Why is this? So you're really trying to get to something very specific. Now, in the South, we don't like to sometimes say how things really are. We like to just be, oh, bless their heart and whatever. So I just tell people, it is what it is. We're not making a judgment on it, right? We're not trying to explain it away, but it is what it is, right? So you're just sharing it and you're getting to those deeper points, okay? And I like to say there are a lot of different perspectives that can come. I'm a huge fan of who probably could identify the most root causes in your work, regardless if you're doing housing, education, health. Who? Is it you who've been a nonprofit leader for 20 plus years, or the funder, front line? The people you work with, the people closest to the problem often have the solutions, right? They may not have the ability or the systems. So y'all, I mean, I've got the learned experience. I got the 10 letters behind my name right now. My mother still doesn't know what I do for a living. It's fine. But you know, we need the learned experience, right? But y'all, the lived experience is so important for this phase. Right? We need the content experts, but the context experts are really critical. I used to live in San Antonio, and I facilitated networks on the lower Rio Grande Valley. That's the border of Mexico and Texas. Yeah, they couldn't understand me. I couldn't understand them. It was rough. All right, but the deal was, I kept telling these young folks that they needed to be active in their neighborhoods, right? Like, Lulu, you need to go walking, you need to do this, right? All this, I had all the solutions, right? Had my master's in public health, I had everything, right? And finally, her daddy, Joe, came to me one day and said, Holly, stop telling Lulu to go walking. We got all these wild dogs in our neighborhood, and I've told her she cannot, right? So this whole trailer park where they were living, and I'm trying to do my community health worker and all these initiatives, had all these wild dogs, and the parents were livid that other folks were encouraging their children to go outside, right? Context matters, right? So we're having to think, oh my goodness, well, would you do? No, I would not want to be out there, right? So the thinking here, y'all, is when you're getting the story behind the curve, is you got to get different perspectives. Now, I'm a fan of community health needs assessment and do very well in living with that, right? So if y'all need one, I'll help you. But I'm telling you, the most powerful sometimes is the person on the street interviews. And what I mean, you're in an area of need. What do you need? What are your needs? You're just asking folks, right? And I find there's power in the number 7. You don't have to interview 1,000 people, 500 people. You interview 7 people. You can be intentional, but if you talk to 7 people, you're probably going to get to some of those root causes. Now, this is where it gets sticky. What if you just received a grant to work on diabetes, and then everybody's telling you their issue is mental health? Right? Now, this is where I'm glad your funder's at the table, but this is where you may have to have a conversation, and you as a coalition or others, I've worked with one, hey, we still think diabetes is an issue, but first we may have to do some things on mental health, and then we'll go to that diabetes thing, right? So the thing here is, you could do more harm than good if you spend all this time getting the story behind the curve and you don't do crap about it. Right? So just be mindful of, like, what are we doing this? And then you could also link people, right, to people in this room. Okay? So the key here is, in the story behind the curve, is you're focusing on the story and you're not jumping to any solutions. Right? You're getting the story of that child who's a single parent. You're getting the story of the child who wasn't diagnosed with ADHD or dyslexia till they were 8 years old, right? You're just collecting all the stories, and you're not trying to fix it to where you want it to go. All right? All right, the third one is, who are the partners who have a role to play in turning the curve? After you've done this broad story collection, you're probably like, wow, well, these partners or this group would have a say in this, right? So you're thinking through, who are the partners who have a part in this? And this is where I say, y'all, this RBA is a disciplined way of thinking. It's iterative, right? You could be constantly rethinking your partners, right? You're thinking through that. Okay, so for here, this is just some of them. The group I see most often missing when I'm looking at partner list is the businesses, right? But y'all, businesses care about what's going on because those are their employees, right? So somehow you may have to connect it, but that's the group I often see missing. So then you're thinking about just how could we widen our net, and what partners are there that are somehow related to some of these root causes who could help us move forward. Okay? All right. And then what works to turn the curve? And I would say a lot of us, we can do a lot in this area. So this is where we're thinking about what are the evidence-based interventions, those EBIs. What are those things that we could do to help with what we've already seen? Okay, so the key here is, y'all, I don't know about you, but you probably don't have a new line item just for innovative ideas for $75,000 in your budget. I wish, right? So with this, y'all, I want to say some of your ideas could be no cost, right? We're going to experiment with AI. could be, or we're going to partner with this group, right? No cost, right? But some of your ideas and initiatives could have a cost. So the key here is the yin and the yang. You want to come up with some ideas that are maybe conservative and some kind of off the wall, wild, like they're just out there. Like what if we build a water park, or I don't know, something, okay? All right, and then after you've done that, the key, y'all, and this is where some people start, we have these amazing brainstorming sessions, and then what happens? Oh, that was great. We just go back to life, right? So with results-based accountability, you just don't care about the data. You just don't research interventions, but then you're putting an action plan together based off that. All right? And the key, y'all, is there's a lot of things you could do in your action plan. And y'all, when I mean action plan, it's legit. February, we're going to do this. March, you're literally putting together an action plan, maybe forming action teams of what you're going to do. And the key here with results-based accountability is you're trying to think through some things. There could be a lot of things you could do, but you want to value the actions that have a leverage point, right? Hey, if we kind of work on this, it's directly related to that thing we're working on in a priority, and we'll be able to move it forward. The other thing is you also want to know if it's feasible. And with that, you're also prioritizing actions that have maybe a bigger reach, right? Well, you could decide, hey, our reach may be small, but we're going to really focus on the impact we're going to have, right? And then you want to make sure you pick actions that are consistent with the values of your organization. And then lastly, this needs to be very specific, okay? This is who, what, when, by how, like you're literally putting together the action plan. All right, so the key here is the story behind the baseline should always precede thinking about actions. Okay, so with this quote, y'all, basically we need to use more common sense in our organizations. Okay, that means we're not going to jump right to these are the actions without taking into account the data and the stories first. Okay, now we can look at different things, but it's those stories. So with this, this is a way to do it. I think this is a little complicated, but this is the textbook way. You can do it a different way. You can think about, oh my goodness, there are all these different strategies we could do. Right? There are different strategies you could do on your issue. And then you're going to think about, well, what's the leverage? What's our reach? Is it consistent with our values? And is it specific, right? I probably would already just take away strategies that weren't consistent with your values. Just don't even put them on this list. But you're kind of thinking through it. And the reason y'all may have to do this is it's going to take some work, right? So I'm not a huge fan of having 5 strategies and you only complete 20% of all 5, right? It's more important when you're doing this results-based accountability with the disciplined thinking to limit it to 1 or 2 strategies, right? That you're really going to take to the finish line, learn from it, all that, and then keep going. Right? Because y'all, the majority of rocket fuel is expended at takeoff. There are a lot of rockets and stuff going off now all the time, right? But the deal is, y'all, what happens with groups is you get all 5, and what do we try to do? We try to lift all 5 strategies at once. And then what happens? People get burned out, tired, got a staff change, volunteer change, and then none of them get to the finish line. So y'all, prioritization is your friend. We want it. Before you move on, right, you're in okay, we've got these strategies, but what's the one we're going to tackle first, right? What is the priority we're going to do, right? And then you're all putting your rocket fuel towards that one before you're adding these other ones. All right. The other thing, y'all, want to caution you is the disadvantage of starting all your things at once is your feedback's messed up, right? I'm getting instant feedback if we're starting one project and then learning from it. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to take that feedback to the second strategy, right? And so you're progressively elaborating, and each one you do, you've got greater confidence that what we're doing is working. Okay? So this whole time you're thinking through that. All right. So with this, I want you as a table, and I guess we may have some folks just join a table, but I want you as a table to be honest with your table mates of the 5 core questions of results-based accountability. Which area does your organization neglect most often? Which of those questions does not get as much love? You may want to, but it just doesn't get it. So it's the one on how are we doing? What's the story behind the curve? Who are the partners? What works to turn the curve? And your action plan. Which of those areas does your group neglect most often? All right, y'all can, there's not a worksheet for this. Y'all are just having a discussion. These are the 5 areas. All right, and I'll get the slide where it's a little darker. All right, enjoy. Y'all have about 6 minutes at your table to talk. Let's hear from a table or two. Maybe this table in the back. What was the question that you're, did any of you have a theme that we most often neglect? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5?
We didn't get very far.
Oh, gotcha. That's fine.
We were still trying to understand each other.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Anybody who got a little further, which number did you find that you neglect most often? Yes. Number 3. Mm-hmm.
How we looked at it was, you're so protective about your program, you're really iffy of who you want to bring in, because you want the same people who see the same goals that you see
Yeah.
for your plan.
Yeah. Love that. I don't know if y'all heard that, but the partners, sometimes if you're bringing in that broader net, you're not going to see eye to eye with everything. So do we just exclude them completely, or do we bring them in? Right? That's very, what shows a lot of humility in that statement. Yeah. Anybody else? Which one of the questions did you find that you most neglect? Anybody else? The partner one? Yeah.
Well, we thought partner to a degree only because we kind of have partners that we work with and they're very diverse, but we could expand it a little bit. But the action plan, it's like what to do after
The action plan, right, yeah. And I do a lot of facilitation, y'all, and an action plan, some people are like, oh, we need strategic plans. I'm much more of a fan of an action plan any day of the week. And y'all, a true action plan is you could do a 3-month action plan, a 6-month action plan, or a 1 year. But if you get beyond that, it's not an action plan anymore because you're doing more long range thinking, right? It's that. And y'all could do an action plan with your team in 90 minutes. All right, I'll send it to Cameron, but I got a facilitation design. It takes you through the process. You know, what's your victory? What are our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats? What are we committing to in the next 6 months? And then what actions are going to get us there to reach our commitment. So we have like a little process, but y'all, you do it in 90 minutes, you got it, right? And then the key will be that accountability, right? Yeah. Anybody else? Another step that your organization, we just never get to that part. Yes.
I'm a Girl Scout.
Uh-huh.
It's not that we don't get to this part, but the local data collection.
Mm-hmm.
So we are preventing youth prevention program.
Right. Yep.
So it's very hard. We don't collect data on like our local Girl Scouts. Nationally, we do. Nationally, they have a whole research institute.
Yep.
That does all of these great things with national data. But to drill down, we have membership data. We have, I can tell you number of troops and all that kind of thing.
Demographic data.
But
Yep.
to tell you, little Lucy, who started as Daisy, graduated high school, she went on to college, she's a successful, career person. That is what we're missing on a local level.
Yep.
We need to figure out how to track that on a local level.
Right, yeah, that's great. And I think the key is once she figures it out, and it could be some interview questions and finding some volunteers to track or whatever, then you've got it in place that you could do. I think the fear for a lot of people is if we can't get all the data, we're not going to get any. And that's ridiculous, right? Just think about you're driving blind, right? All these little GPS markers you can get, this data is going to help you. So just start somewhere, y'all. The expression I use in my office all the time is GEPO. It means good enough, press on. You don't have to have it all together, people, right? And y'all, I know we're a spirit of excellence and all that, y'all, but y'all, I think the thing about perfection or whatever is just killing organizations. It's progress over perfection, right? Your data is not going to be perfect. You might get Lucy, but not, I don't know, Rhonda and Oregon, I don't know, whatever, right? You're not going to get it all, but just get something, right? That data is important. Yes, and we had one in the back. What question do you most often neglect?
I was just adding to hers, it's
Yeah.
the same issue is that the people we can get to, so we're driving out competition.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are willing to be a part of it are the people who don't have the problems.
Oh, yeah. So I would say you need to do different methods, my friend. Okay? So I just finished a community health needs assessment with the group, and surveys are great. Surveys are good, y'all. But in South Carolina, maybe not in other places, white educated women love to complete surveys. I don't know why, but it's the truth. White educated women will do surveys all day long, right? So you may collect 1,800, you may have a goal. I won't say where, but I've worked with this community, I think now 8 years. And I finally, y'all, like every year, they get their survey number. They collected 1,800 surveys. But 80% of them were white educated women. Do you really think the white educated women knew the true needs of what they were trying to get at? Heck no, I threw all the data out. We didn't even use it. Right? I mean, we have it, but I'm like, this really isn't getting at what we need. So I think, y'all, the question is, if you're getting like, okay, the folks, then you got to change your methods, right? You just got to change it up, right? What method could we do that's really going to best? And y'all, sometimes we just got to be shorter, like drill it down to what's the real question. Is your life better off today than it was last year? Yes, no. Right? It could be something, I mean, we can get deeper, but yeah, I get it that we have to sometimes design strategies that are different and change our methods. And y'all, that's why some of us kind of hold fast to some things, right? Well, survey data, I'm going to be able to compare last year's survey to the last, I'm going to be able to do all this clean comparisons. But if it's not really answering the question you're after, you need to change it. Okay, good. So thank y'all for doing that. So, but when we look at it, y'all, does this seem reasonable? These 5 questions, this disciplined way of thinking it doesn't seem like a bunch of something crazy that California gave us. Okay, we're good? Okay. All right, so the thing here I also want us to distinguish again is this whole versus part, okay? So when you think about it, the well-being of a population in a geographic area, right? What are y'all in? Team Florence, right? Florence County, right? But then for accountability, you're also looking at, well, how well is our agency, our nonprofit working to serve the clients, customers, participants you have, right? You're part of it, but you're not the whole thing, right? There's the accountability for the whole, which is important, right? But you have the accountability for the part, okay? So this green part is what we call population accountability. And then this other part is performance accountability. Okay, so when you're thinking about your grant application or when you're going to start reporting on RBA metrics, which accountability are you in, ladies and gentlemen? Performance, right? Now, collectively, right, when you're looking at all these things, you're all pointing to, you've got this goal for population, okay? So then even under that, for some of you who have bigger nonprofits, like I even think First Steps, you could have all these different programs, right? You have Ready for 4K, you have Dolly Parton Imagination Library, you've got home visits, I don't know, all these different things. You can even go more granular and think about how is it working in my little part, right? So you're thinking about this, but you see kind of how it's a domino, they're all connected. Think about like nested dolls, kind of. You got your thing, right? And it's part of the bigger thing and then part of that. Okay, where do we tend to focus our accountability on? Which part? The whole, the part? You said whole, right? And the reason some people focus on the whole is because other people collect that data for us, right? You're just depending on the community health needs assessment. You're depending on, what is it? Live Healthy, South Carolina. I don't even know. All these different, they got the data, right? But the question is, the part that's under your control, or your part, is the part, right? So this is just thinking through that. So just to bring it again, you've got the population, right? Then you've got the performance, which is the clients, right? And that's what we're focusing on. So with results-based accountability, y'all, there are a lot of definitions and terms. And I didn't give this to you, but they're glossaries and different things. So I just want to tell you, don't get lost in the sauce. Don't. Just know at the end, y'all, it's a disciplined way of thinking. And we're going to use what to start our thinking? Data, right? We're going to use data to start our thinking. We're going to pick a strategy, and then we're going to find out, did the strategy work, not work, and then keep building action plans, okay? So don't get lost in the sauce, but if you need to impress somebody at lunch today, you've got the result, right? That's that key thing you're after. You have your indicator, which is your metric, and then you're thinking through the different ones. But the big one I want to focus on is the performance measure. So today, when we're going to look at some draft measures, we're looking at draft performance measures, okay? Okay, so the thing here is multiple partners can share joint accountability for a certain result, right? We can have multiple partners all working on education or health or whatever. And so they're constantly saying, what are the right things to do, right? But the thing is we're going more into that part focus, where we're focused more on that narrow thing. The question is, are we doing the things right? Right? You're trying to think through what we have in our part. All right. So with this, y'all, I'm going to make a ground rule that what happens at your table stays at your table. Okay? If you decide to share, you share, up to you, my friend. I'm not going to take it anywhere. But I want you to share a nightmare, a painful story, something, but it's this tightrope you walk as a leader, right? When you're trying to champion both population change, right? You're after that big population change in something, but then you're also trying to run an amazing program, right? They're connected, but they're different, right? So this is a time for you to talk about the struggle of running maybe an amazing kick butt program, but also trying to handle the national, regional, something where you're trying to champion, right? This could also be a time where you could share a story where you thought your group was doing amazing work, and somebody goes, well, you must not be because the data says something else. But y'all, I'm going to tell you, there's a thing called data lag, right? You could be doing amazing work, right? And the data wouldn't even impact population data. You're not going to see that for 2 years, right? So that, to me, even speaks more to the more importance of collecting performance metrics, right? That it's going to give it. Because if you're just waiting for the data to tell you that you're doing good work, good luck, buttercup. It might not come, right? Or when it comes, you're like, now what the heck did we do 2 years ago to make that happen? You already forgot. right? So the thing is, you're having to do this. But this is a time for you as a table to share a story or just your struggle with this yin and yang. Performance, right? Where you're at your individual, but then maybe you've been serving on this coalition for 20 years, which is after more that community, right? That whole piece. So this is your time to struggle the part versus the whole. Start sharing, but don't take any notes. This is just confidential. All right. So hopefully y'all were able to talk through some things at your table. Okay. The key, and your stories stay at your table. What happens in Florence stays in Florence, all right? But y'all, the key thing I want to reiterate again and again is a part is different than a whole. Let's say it together, Team Florence. A part is different than a whole, okay? They're both important. So when we're thinking about results-based accountability, today we're thinking about how can we can have a disciplined way of thinking specifically about the part that we have, right? That hopefully will lead to action and improvements that over time will lead to that whole. That makes sense? All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about metrics, and then we're going to take a break, and then we'll keep going with it. All right. So the key, y'all, is when we're thinking about the whole, the population, you've got your population area, right? Oftentimes we're specifically about South Carolina. We're specifically about Florence County. It could be you're specifically focused on a certain zip code, right? Or it could be we're focused for our community health worker program on these 3 streets, right? You could get and you're thinking about what's the condition of well-being, okay? So when we're thinking about that, if you go to we're going to get to page 1 here, but let's turn to page 2 of it's the ISI Consulting handout with the light bulb on it. Page 2, all right? The question there is, people experiencing blank will be able to do blank, right? So that's that part, like at the end of the day, it could be your population result is you want folks who've just been released from prison to all be working citizens, right? Somebody else tell me a population result you could have. We want all children to read or graduate high school. What would be one for basic needs? We want folks to be able to what? What are, at the end of the day, the basic needs, folks? What are you after? What's your end game? Have safe housing. Yes. Have skills, right? What else? Be sober, right? So the thing here, y'all, is you're after the end game. What's our result, right? So with results-based accountability, we're not first talking about all the activities we do, right? What are we starting first with? You're starting with the end in mind, right? Because we get pigeonholed into activities that may not link up at the end, okay? So we're after that. So when we're thinking about that, you've got to think through, well, what indicators are going to tell me if we're doing that? Okay, so we're going to break this down, but when we're thinking about indicators, and don't worry, Cameron and her crew have already drafted some for y'all, like metrics, and we're going to get to those, but you want to think about them in 3 respects. The first is communication. Well, y'all, does the metric even mean anything to the people I work with? Like if I present this to my board of directors, advisory group, or to my volunteers, are they even going to know what that means, right? So you want to pick metrics that can people understand, all right? Secondly, you want to pick a metric that really is linked to what you're doing, All right? So it's like, have you ever started collecting a metric on something and, well, it's easy to collect this data point, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't have a hill of beans to do with what we're doing. But I guess we're just collecting it because we can. We're just doing it, right? So the question here is thinking through, is this something, like if I knew this regularly, it would be important to me and it's really going to help me, right? It really is linked. And the third is the data even available? Okay, so sometimes people think, oh, it'd be great if we got emergency room usage data, right? But does the hospital regularly give that out? No, so don't put it as a metric, right? You need to think through what data can you get. And more importantly, I'm a fan of what data can I get that I'm not going to have to depend on somebody else for. Right? Where if you have to get a data use agreement, memorandum of understanding, all that stuff, right? So you're trying to think about, well, what's something that's in our thing that we could actually collect? Now, the other thing here is data power. You don't want to collect something where you're only going to get 1 or 2 in a year, because is that giving you much feedback? Right? So you're going to keep breaking down metrics to get something where you've got some substance that you can work with. Okay? So, with this and results-based accountability, this is just like if you're at a lunch with someone and you're wanting to impress them. Don't feel that you have to know all these terms. But they call it a headline indicator if it's a metric that's clear and you can communicate it to lots of people. Second, that metric is related to the actions you're taking. And thirdly, it's a metric that you're able to get a data on, easy and collected. Okay? So these H, L's, M stand for high, low, medium. Okay? So for some of you, you may have a luxury like, Holly, we could collect all this data, right? But you're going to try to limit it to what metrics could you collect that kind of get all 3 of these criteria. Okay? Now, y'all, I just don't want to stress you about that. But the key thing is, y'all, we do a lot of work in our organizations and we really don't look up at data. Right? We're doing stuff day in and day out. But then at the end of the day, like, you knew you were busy. You knew you're tired, right? You know you're doing a lot. But at the end of the day, like, what have we really done? And I would submit to you that everybody in this room is doing something really important, right? Your missions matter, right? You have this. But last week I went bowling with my 3 children. There's a thing called duck bowling now. Have y'all heard of duck bowling? Do y'all have a duck bowling alley here? It's the pins are half the size of regular pins, so they look like ducks. It's called duck bowling, and the lanes are half the size. Okay, but when you're bowling, what are you constantly doing after you roll the ball? You're looking up at the score, right? Every time, right? You're getting feedback for every gutter ball, right? You're getting feedback. What am I doing? This. And y'all, the things you're doing at your organizations is way more important than bowling. We need to be looking up at the data, right? We did that. What worked, what didn't work. So what I want us to do is go to page 1 of results-based accountability. It says 7 critical questions, and you've got 4 quadrants on it. Right? And we are about performance measures. And are performance measures part of the whole or the part? Which one? The whole, they're about the whole shebang of the community, or the part, which is the part that you control in your organization? Part. Okay, so when we're looking at results-based accountability, you want metrics in 3 areas. Okay, so we're just going to take these one at a time. The first is, how much service did we deliver? Right? That's quantity. Okay, number of people, number of activities. Do we do this in Florence County? Yes. This is pretty easy to collect, but in the end of the day, y'all, does it really tell you much? 20 people showed up to your training. 10 people did this. They read 5 books, right? It's not telling you much. But then you're going to look at data in 3 ways. Then you're going to look at quality. How well did we deliver it, right? So you could have some specific metrics around quality. Now, a lot of us probably do this, but we don't do it in a disciplined, consistent manner where we're tracking it, okay? And if it's not documented, it didn't happen. Okay, so this is where I think some of us, we are believers in quality, but we might be a little sloppy and lazy and just need to document a little bit, right? Thinking through the quality. And when we look at the quadrants, what does it say in orange for this quadrant? Important, right? This is very important that we're thinking through this. And then when we're looking at effect, we're thinking about how much change did we produce and what quality of change did we produce, okay? So when we're thinking through this, the thing is, is anybody better off, right? Is this working? So when you're looking at this, you're looking at percent of behavior, attitude, circumstance, knowledge, and skills change. You're looking at this, and this is very important. Right? You're just taking it to the next level. Okay? So if we look at these 3 areas, what leads us to not get to the question, is anyone better off? Is anybody scared? Well, Holly, if it shows that we're not better off, I'm scared I'm about to lose all my money. Right? Or, what's about to happen? Right? So I think some of us may get fear of what's the data going to show. Right? And so I think this is somewhere where we have to be comfortable with continuous quality improvement. You could be doing worse a lot of times before you're going to get better. Right? And the key thing is like, hey, we're showing it, but y'all, sometimes you just have to remember, you just started collecting data on it. 4 years ago, it could have been way worse. We don't know. We're now asking this question, right? So I'm saying it is a caution, right? Your stuff could show things are getting worse, but the key with results-based accountability is you're not just staring at that, but then you're asking, okay, what's behind the curve, right? The data showing this, well, what are the reasons, right? What are the root causes? You're getting deeper with that, all right? So the key elements for results-based accountability, when we're thinking through this, is called turn the curve thinking, y'all. And that simply is asking the question, the trend's going up, right? Well, what's causing that? Well, this. Well, what's really the reason? What? You're keeping asking why multiple times, all right? And we are going to be clear in distinguishing the part versus the whole. Right? We're not going to have a metric for your organization that's for all of Florence County or the state of South Carolina. You're going to think about what data can we collect and look at regularly for your part. Okay? And then we're going to select indicators that we actually care about and look at regularly. We're not just going to submit it in with our application or look at, but what is data that's going to help me? So let's just go to weight loss, right? There could be in a result, you want to lose 50 pounds, right? So let's just take that. Brainstorming prompts, if we're on page 2, what's different? I will be healthy physically, spiritually, mentally, but I'm really looking at the physical piece, okay? What's a metric that typically we use? Somebody wants to lose 50 pounds. Their weight, right? But just staring at somebody's weight's not going to give me much data, right? What indicators could I use, right, that's going to have a big, kind of really closely tied to this outcome I want that's going to help me know if I'm going to lose weight? So it could be the amount of cups of water I drink a day, how many minutes of exercise I do a day, how many vegetables I eat a day, right? So when you're thinking about it, and can I understand that? It's communication, I get that, right? Are those measures connected to my big goal of losing weight? Yep. And could I collect that, y'all? Is it feasible? Could I track my water, vegetables, and minutes? Right. Those are some good metrics. But I think the key, y'all, is some of us just get so fixated and maybe discouraged by looking at that big goal we're after. And we are going to get more motivated and see our progress if we're after these little indicators, right? So I think the spotlight needs to move from our end game. We need to identify our end game. With results-based accountability, you start with your end game. But where are we putting all our time? On the little pieces, right? You're spotlighting these little indicators and tweaking things that hopefully will in turn help that big one. Okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to take we'll take a 10-minute break, and when we come back, we're going to get into small groups to talk about metrics. So when you get back, each of these tables are going to be identified as housing, education, basic needs, house rehab, all the pieces. So you just come back and you're going to be at a different table. Enjoy. All right. Everybody good? Okay. So what we're going to do first, y'all, is pull out that packet called Results-Based Accountability Metrics. Right, see that one? So this first activity is individual and it's silent. So for my microwave thinkers in the room, just hold it myself, please. All right, so what I want you to do is to find your area, like mental health, you'll go to the mental health section. Basic needs, you'll go to your section. And what I want you to do is to quietly review the draft metrics that have already been provided for you, okay? Now you'll notice there's a watermark all over this called draft, right? So they're draft metrics for youth. Everybody see theirs for your section? And what I want you to do is you're quietly reading it, and I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. First one is communication. Do I even understand what this means, right? Would my audience understand it? Proxy power, is this metric even important? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Is this metric going to help us with our end game? And lastly, I want you to ask yourself, is this something your organization could even collect, right? Is it something we could even collect data on? All right, so we're going to all quietly review it. Some of you have multiple pages to review. Okay, you see that? All right. Now you're just reviewing them, and then I'm going to tell you the next step. All right, hopefully everybody's done that. All right, so I'm just going to give you these instructions because some groups are larger than others. So the first thing I want you to do in your group is you're going to start with somebody and you're going to share one word or image that comes to mind after you read all those metrics. Okay? It could be crap, amazing, I don't know, whatever it is, right? You're just all sharing your one word. And then as a group, and some of you just be mindful of your speaking time if you're in a large group, is you're going to share, hey, this metric, and we're going to be real specific. I don't like it or I do like it, but I don't understand what it means, or there's no way in Hades that my organization could collect data on this. You're just giving input. You're having a whole table discussion. And then once we get that going, we're going to take it to the next level. So first, everybody's sharing one word or image that comes to mind when you've reviewed those metrics. And you're not commenting on somebody's word or image. You're just going boom, 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 boom. Everybody's sharing it. And then you're having an open discussion on the metrics. What's your gut level response? And you're going to be specific and say on page 5, metric blank under objective 2. You're being very specific. All right, start sharing your word. I'm going to pause everybody for a minute. So there are different words. Some groups, the word is reasonable. Some words are stressful, okay? I know y'all, there's emotion and all kind of stuff wrapped in this data. So what you have at your table is, please pick a scribe that we can read their handwriting. They're going to have an easel sheet and you got marker, okay? Now I will tell y'all something. With your draft metrics, I have looked over all of them kind of, but the key, y'all, is this has already gone through multiple folks, so we're not after a whole rewrite. Okay, I just want to lower expectations, okay? So we're after specific feedback. This metric, can we change this word? Or this one shouldn't be required metric for everyone because we can't even collect it. You're giving very specific feedback. So in your easel sheet, you're saying mental health objective 2, right? And here's our feedback. We love this metric, or this metric, all of us had issues with it, right? Or we don't understand what it means. It's not even possible for us to collect it, or the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Even if we collect this data, it's not really helping us with our end game, okay? Y'all got that? All right, you can have difference of perspective at your table. 3 of you love it, 5 of you don't, right? Still document that. Sound good? Y'all, this matters because y'all are going to be required. So we're not going to do this 10 minutes. This is a 20-minute activity. Clearly document. If you just want to do happy faces, objective 1, love, right? However you want to do it, but you're documenting your feedback on these metrics. All right, but let's take emotion. We're documenting and we're reviewing them on 3 criteria. Can we understand it? Is this data important to our end game? And third, is it something we can even collect? Is it even possible for our organization to get that? All right, y'all get going. All right, everyone. So in the spirit of iron sharpens iron, we're all going to learn from one another, okay? So when you hear something over here and they're like, oh, I like their suggested, is it anyone better off? I'm just going to steal it and change it to another thing. You use it, okay? We're going to learn from each other. All right, first, let's give it up for home rehab. Woo!
Do it from right here. Do it from
Yeah.
right here. Okay.
Can you hold? Oh, you got.
Like
I'll
this?
hold it for you.
Hold it for me. Okay, we're doing home rehab, and the objectives that we had for 1 were very good. We gave it a smiley face for how much and how well, and so that's where we landed. Now, when we were on the better off question, we said we ought to add more qualitative questions or stories. That was the thing, because stories always pull on the heart, and it actually helps you raise money. So that's the bottom line. Now, objective 2, when it came to what we do, we are not really involved in that objective, which was to, what was the objective? It said to
Availability of alternative housing.
availability of affordable housing. Alternative housing, yes. So we stated that, but then we said we liked both the how much and how well metrics. We thought those were good. And again, we basically came back down to better off in that section, adding more qualitative questions. And so we came up with 2 suggested qualitative questions, one closed-ended, one open-ended. The closed one is, did the repair meet needs? That's the question. And then the open-ended, how did the repair impact your household? And then they get to tell their story. So that's us.
All right, great job. Okay. So y'all probably, it's not going to be surprising, the is anyone better off one is going to be probably where that's the one we're not used to ever doing anything with. We got widget counting, we got bean counting down, right? but we're trying to get to that deeper level. Now let's give it up for youth. Now remember, you're just giving us the bottom line. We'll still get your easel sheet, so I'll type up all this feedback to United Way, so they're going to have that when they're going to look at it. But what is the message here? Who's going to be our speaker?
No, don't point at me. I wrote. That was the deal. I wrote.
Are you the speaker?
No, I'm gonna hold the thing for, I'm gonna be the
I
holder.
speak too fast. I'm not gonna speed right through.
You got it? Oh, we got lots of holders.
Oh, you're serious?
I'm serious.
Okay, sorry. I was just going to be the holder. So we didn't have issues with how much or how well we understand those. We think we can quantify those much as everyone. Youth here, we were kind of seeing it not so much under the educational bucket as under that at-risk level for these youth and activities and programs to help them, not solely education-based. And it seemed a lot of the is anyone better off was tied to education, reading level, success in school specifically. And we thought that should be a little bit more tied to here, focused on life skills, youth development, character-based versus just educational.
All right.
Did I do okay?
Yeah. Excellent. That's excellent feedback. Right? So you see, for that, is anyone better off? They're just broadening a little bit to make sure. But y'all, the reason it can get a little hairy is because you can devise all these metrics and 5 people at your table all have different end results. Right? So if you look at that RBA worksheet I gave you with the light bulb, the very first thing you do is you clearly define your end game. Right? You have to all be clear on that, and then you get to metrics, right? But you see how easily you could have all these metrics for something and your end games, they don't align, right? Sound good? All right, let's go to the largest group in the house today. Let's give it a hand for mental health. Yeah, and just the nuggets.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm talking on behalf of a large group here, and there's 2 different objectives, one that's specific to substance abuse and one that's more general for mental health. So we have a lot of language about specific definitions and things that might be helpful, but broad strokes, I think the how well are we doing, or is anyone better off, I think is the category. Our biggest takeaway, I think, is that returning for services is not necessarily a negative. There are lots of different things that impact folks' mental health, and the fact that people have identified services that are helpful for them and are returning for additional services or next steps, that's a positive. And so we're hopeful that the way that language is read in those, in those outcomes is not seen as negative, because we really feel like that's helpful for the community. And then under that, I guess, category, specifically within our addiction recovery, just relapse, kind of thinking about those numbers in the same way as returning for services. Relapse isn't necessarily considered a failure. It can be part of the recovery process. It isn't necessarily always, but that's not necessarily negative, right? That's kind of a part of what a lot of folks' stories are within recovery. So we just wanted to make sure that those required categories weren't seen as negative from a reporting perspective.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's wonderful. And this also speaks to something I love when I'm doing metrics. I want to put, like in parentheses, sometimes I do an arrow up or down, because you want people to know what's your desire with that metric. Are you wanting it to go up? Like for basic needs, there should show if you're seeing them less, that's a good thing, right? Because it probably speaks to you're more economically stable, you've got a job. So they want visits to go down, right? So the thing is, what do you want your indicator? Do you want it to go up? Do you want it to go down? Or some of them, you may want it to maintain it, right? You want to keep it the same. All right, good. Let's now give it a hand for basic needs. Are you the speaker? All right, I guess you're the easel holder. You got a hard job today. The easiest Monday of your life.
Okay, so we discussed the basic needs. Our objective was what? Resources and availability in the software to keep documentation. Okay, that was one of our issues, was the resources, data, and documentation. How well we track the success of our individuals, because the table consists of food services, housing, and shelter, and feeding monthly for the homeless. Okay, so we had a table that really a full collaboration. So, but the bulk of it all was the resources and the software for data.
How are you going to collect it?
How you're going to collect it as time change, you know, going by the scale of income. So our basic needs for objective 2 was, how are our clients better off? Do they come as often as they used to come? Are they comparing, for me, are they comparing their needs versus their wants? And how do we break the cycle? How do we break the cycle of homelessness, and how we break the cycle of those that are coming constantly for the resources? Are they coming for the resources because they're available, or they're coming for the resources because they have growth? Mm-hmm. So telling the difference between that was one of the data that we wanted to share. So our basic needs message, she has what? More resources and data to the community. Literacy, meeting people where they are, I know for me is one of the biggest things, just meeting people where they are, as far as providing information and letting them understand homelessness, what's available in their community, the food pantry, and the housing, and needs versus wants.
That's great. All right, thank you. And you've already jumped to one of the areas we're going to do after this is, what do you need now moving forward? Like, in addition to this training, maybe in addition to the textbook, what are you going to need from United Way or others to make it? And so this basic needs table said you're going to need help figuring out how to even collect, like, what are we collecting this on? How are we going to have a system to collect this data consistently? Right? So the key thing with this, y'all, this isn't just a one-time data collection point. You're going to be consistently collecting data on it. That's why it's so important to get the metrics right. All right, let's hear last but not least, education. Yes, thank you. Thank you both.
Okay.
I'm just your holder.
So I hope I do this right, but they assured me they would just nod and agree. So with the first objective, is anyone better off in looking at kindergarten readiness? Just asking the question, well, what determines the factors of readiness, and does that mean in all areas, like mentally, socially, emotionally, not just academically? Similar to what somebody else touched on over there, the youth. Yes, so that was a big one, but then also the preparedness of the educators.
It would be an additional metric, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
That's all I got to say about that. I'm a former educator. Okay, objective 2.
David dance. Go ahead.
Yes, I think we were pretty good with that one.
Good. I like
Yes. I mean, with some changes of words, but overall. 3 was a challenge because it addresses affordable childcare and coming to, the desired outcome that, people will have access to, whether it's high quality or not. The lack of available childcare is a true reality, especially for our area. And so we're wondering if that is possible.
Bigger than us.
It's bigger than us. We can totally track it, but like, yeah.
Right. So y'all, somebody said here it's bigger than us, but we're gonna use some results-based accountability terminology, right? Because we've just been in this incredible training. So what's going on here is they have a metric that's part of the whole, right? There's a whole crisis right now on affordable childcare, but they're being measured on their part. Right? So they're saying that it's not a performance-based metric, right? It's a community-based metric, right? So remember, part and whole are different. They're connected but different. Does that make sense? All right. So overall, though, y'all, the thing is here, are you going to get it right the first time at United Way of Florence? No, but we're get-boing it. We're good enough, press on, okay? Because y'all, I'm here to tell you, even if you're being more intentional with your data and looking at not just how much did we do, and you're looking at these other areas, you're gonna be doing a better job. So I don't want us to get fixated on this metric is not perfect, right? Because y'all, you're gonna have other parts to this, right? This is just one part of it, right? Because you got the stories, right? You got all these feedback loops, all these changes you're making. So I'm just saying, at the end of the day, the pivot here is you've always been collecting data. But the pivot is, with this disciplined way of thinking with results-based accountability, we're going to look at things not just that are easy to collect, right? But we're going to look at things to really see, is it really making a difference? And I do want to commend y'all. Y'all stayed in the grown zone. Y'all didn't go to escapism and look up trips to Punta Cana. Y'all stuck with it. Okay, but what's emerging in your mind after you're looking at it, but you're not just looking at one metric, you're looking at 3 or more in those categories. Anybody have an insight that's emerging from that? I'm hoping for some of you in your nonprofits, it's going to change some of your board meetings and your staff meetings. All right? Because when I hear presentations from nonprofits, where do you land when you're doing your presentations and speaking and what's in the newspaper? Which one of these? Is it how much? Right? So I want us to think, I mean, sometimes maybe how much or quality, or you've got a testimonial, but I really want us to think through this. Like, this is something quarterly you can post to your group. Is anyone better off this next 90 days because of what we're doing, right? Or how might we change something? So you're just looking at those pieces. All right, so I'm getting back in a lecture mode. So y'all want to just stay where you are? All right, so what in the world happens after all this? Okay, my goodness, we figured out all these pieces. And it's that step of results-based accountability, and probably the one, and it's really small up there. I don't know what happened with our font, but if you can read microscopically, what can we do after all this? It says create an action plan, create action meetings, okay? That says up there microscopically, it can take 10 minutes to 2 hours. Right? You could do a quick huddle, okay, based off this, what you're doing. But every time you're doing something in the spirit of quality improvement, you're creating this action plan, right? You can think about what new data, what new information's happening based off this action plan, or what we're going to do, what partners need to be engaged in this action plan. And I'm going to tell y'all, if you're doing an action plan and want this partner to participate, invite them to your action planning process, right? I know people love to laugh and say, oh, I was voluntold. That's not right, right? If you want the people, your action plan meeting needs to include the people who are going to be doing the action, right? Because that's how you're going to get the buy-in and ownership. I don't know about you, but if I rent a car, I don't take care of it, right? I don't wash it. I don't do it because it's not my car. I'm going to turn it back in. Right? So people take care of things they own, right? So ownership takes time. You need to bring in those folks. You're always getting new information, right? You could be getting new information on the budget pieces, and then you're making these changes. Okay? So this whole time, you're just creating these meetings where you're getting all this information, and then what are you doing? You're just feeding it back through the loop, right? You're just going through. Okay? So with this, y'all, if you really look at this, these are the steps for results-based accountability. Okay? You're using data. Are we just using one data point or multiple? Where you're using at least 6 to 8 data points, right? You're looking at data. You're looking at all the pieces. Then you're going to understand the story behind the baselines. That's when you're looking at root causes, right? You're looking at really what is the thing addressing it. Then you're bringing together partners. And then what are you doing? You're thinking about what strategies are best going to work to connect it. And then you do it. You're not just talking about it. You take action. Okay? So y'all, a lot of people so I don't even know if you need to call this results-based accountability. It's just a new way of doing business, or maybe it's the way you've been doing business, or it's just adding a little more framework. Okay? But the key is you don't just stop, right? Oh, we collected the data. We did this, right? You're not just stopping, but you're doing it, and then you keep doing it, right? So it's a more consistent and disciplined way. So when you look at this, let's get into action planning, okay? Woohoo, we made it to action planning. Is the onus on United Way of Florence County to do your action plan? Who's that on? Right. And y'all have your meeting, you can facilitate it or however you're gonna do it, but then it's great to have an action plan, but you're gonna have to have some accountability or check-ins, different ways to get people to keep moving with that. Is that right? Okay, so what questions do y'all have now that you see the worksheet? Let's just revisit back this worksheet for review. Everybody got the light bulb? Mr. Sparky. All right, the first is with results-based accountability, we start with the end in mind first. The who before all the other things, right? Number 1, who are our participants' clients? Whose lives are we affecting? How can we measure if our clients are better off? How can we measure if we're delivering services well? So this gets back to those quadrants. We're not just after how much, we're after the quality piece. And what are the partners that play a role? What works to do better, including no cost and low cost ideas? Remember, y'all, your strategies don't have to be off the wall, these super expensive. There can be low cost. And then what we propose to do. That's your action plan. All right? So remember, with us, there's the whole and the part. For part, you need performance metrics, which for results-based accountability, you have a minimum of 3. You got a how much, which is our bean counting, right? How well, which is your quality. And your third one is that bottom, is anyone better off, okay? So those are your 3. We got that? All right, turn the page. So this is if you wanted to start from scratch. Now today, United Way of Florence County gave you draft metrics. But another way of doing this exercise is if you just have a blank sheet of paper, come up with your end game, and then you determine your own performance metrics, right? So you have a blank thing. So today, y'all gave feedback on those draft metrics, okay? Then if you turn to page 3, and you can be like, okay, I just got to wait on United Way. But y'all, you don't have it. Like once you have your metrics, and all of you have some today that you could go with. I heard the term reasonable, doable several times, is you've got to have data meetings or some type of meeting, improvement meetings or whatever, where you as an organization are thinking about how are we doing on this? Right? It could be you're opened up at the food pantry and nobody's coming on Friday, the 4th the first Friday of every month. Well, it could be everybody's already got things, so maybe you don't need to be open on the first Friday because people just got their benefits, right? So you're using data to then make decisions. Well, we don't need to be there, but we better be open the fourth Friday of the month because everybody needs more help, right? So you're talking through the data, the stories. You could already go ahead and start collecting data at your organization for the last 5 years, if y'all been around for 5 years, right? Because we're talking about we need to be able to tell the story behind the curve, right? So you're thinking about what data can we collect? And I'll tell y'all, trend data tells a story, right? So if you need to bring somebody on or get artificial intelligence, make me a trend graph, here's my data, we'll just do it for you. But somehow you need to figure out what you're doing to get that data and put it all together. Then what does it mean when we say what are the factors pushing up and what are the factors pushing down? Remember that? That's that. They call it in results-based accountability land a force field analysis. Forces. But it's what are the things helping it, right? What you're after. And then what are the things hindering it? What are the things turned down, right? Y'all, this is qualitative. Well, that other group is open the same day as us. That's hurting us. Or our awareness. Nobody even knows we're here. Whatever it could be. All right, then turn to page 4. You're revisiting your partners. Who are the partners that have a role to play? And you're continually asking what other partners need to be at the table. But I also want you to think about who needs to be uninvited. Are you just asking people because it's politically correct? Or I'm a big fan of smaller meetings, get more things done than larger meetings. Okay, so if people haven't spoken in the first 10 minutes, they're probably not going to speak at all during your meeting, right? So I want us to think about how could we make our meetings more lean, right, smaller, but then more focused, right? We're having a meeting around this part or this part. Then what solutions can address or enhance the factors? Y'all probably know that, but I will encourage you here with results-based accountability. Remember, we're emotionally attached to some strategies that we've been doing a long time that may not work anymore. Right, so this is having hard conversations on strategies. And I love cross-pollination of ideas. Maybe y'all do a site visit at a neighboring county to see how they're doing something different. Efficiencies, they're just different ways, but you're trying to break up this imagination gridlock. This is how we do this is what we do, right? So sometimes I think we need to remove a strategy instead of keep adding, all right? And then what's the final step in this results-based accountability framework? Action plan. It's your action plan where you're moving things along. Okay? Does this seem doable to everybody in the room? I know we're a little hot to trot possibly on some of the metrics. But at the end of the day, does this seem like something you could do? Okay. So my next question is, half your team, all your team members aren't here today, right? So they haven't been to this training on results-based accountability. Maybe they don't have time to read the Mark Friedman textbook, right? Or watch that YouTube video. So what resources or help do you foresee needing so your organization is wildly successful in all these steps? I want you to think through that. What are you going to need to be wildly successful in this? All right, cool. Anybody just raise your hand and we're documenting this, that'll help me. What are you thinking you're going to need? I know Basic Needs said they're going to need help creating some data instruments to collect data, right? Because they're going to have to start collecting data in categories they're not used to.
How about also needing technical assistance from the actual United Way, like to let us know that we're on the right track. And where we go off, kind of bring us back so we can finish it and get it in Because that's the purpose. The goal is to make sure that we get it finished and get it in.
Yeah. So direct feedback will be helpful. Yeah, others, what are you going to need? Do you foresee yourself needing coaches, people, I don't know. What are you foreseeing you're going to need to be wildly successful using this in a more disciplined way? I know lots of us are using pieces of it, but it's the whole framework.
I know for me,
Yeah.
like this will be the first time that I've ever done anything like this. So yeah, I guess coaching, like I'm gonna probably need step by step help do this.
Yeah. Anybody else? Some coaching?
I think like for us with the mental health piece is maybe like what she said, a little additional coaching on the anomalies that don't apply within your area particularly, like, or how to get data that would work for that category.
Right. And I'm going to tell y'all here, I mean, I know every one of y'all have different things, but just because the United Way is requiring certain metrics does not prohibit you from creating your own metrics for your part. Okay? This is where that part gets really juicy and data dances, is when you're creating metrics for your own part that are not even part of the requirements. Right? So that's the part that you're going to have to take. Something I would recommend possibly, when you get your part and your performance metrics, send it to somebody. You can send it United Way. I'm going to give you my contact information. I'll look over it. Hey, that looks good. But just before you start the whole thing, please have like another set of eyes on your metrics before everybody starts collecting on them. Okay, it just will help you later. Anybody else have something that comes to mind when you're thinking about what's going to help you be wildly successful? So we have our action planning, all right? And then you also have this thing we talked about earlier, the collective impact framework. Y'all remember that a long time ago from today? So you have this. And when you look at the collective impact, you need a common agenda for change. The results-based accountability is everybody starts with the end in mind. Sound similar? Very similar. You need measurement. You need mutually reinforcing activities. Y'all, those strategies, right? How the education strategy builds off the mental health. It builds off the youth, right? All those things build off each other. Open and continuous communication. Right? The communication, the feedback loops, and a backbone coordinating, right? You've got the support. Does this all sound familiar? Right? It's similar. They're very complementary. You can be in both at the same time. So the thinking for this is there's a big difference between a collaboration and collective impact. Okay, and some folks are saying like, oh, Holly, we've got collective impact. I'm like, okay, good. But y'all, how I think of it is collective impact is the highest form of collaboration. You cannot achieve collective impact by working together for a year. I'm sorry, but none of you got capes on and are superheroes, right? So you're thinking about, instead of proving the worth of your organization, it's all about how are we improving. Right, so it's kind of a different mindset. It's an addition, but it is what you do, and you're advocating for what works in collective impact. It's less on this all about the inputs and we're busy doing activities, but are we really busy going about the right things? Right, to get that. So do y'all see the kind of the nuance with that? So if there's anything I could do in 2025, it's just greater intentionality on just kind of our life, right? And kind of slowing it down enough to be aware if this action is working. So just being aware of this, y'all, is really going to help. And so the question is, what is your comprehensive strategy to turn the curve, right? And 2% club simply means like if we just make these small changes consistently over time, you're going to get demonstrable improvement, right? But I think the key, y'all, that happens is we're on something for a while and we're really good, we're making it, and then we see it. But then what happens? Oh, the numbers are going down. That's good. What do? We just move on to something else. And then what happens to those numbers that went down over there? They go back up, right? So the thing is, how can we consistently hold the gains, is the term we use in quality improvement. It's great to have 1 month or a quarter where things are good, but are you able to consistently keep it up? Right? So that's the key. Once you're able to consistently keep it up, that's when all of a sudden you start standardizing things, you start train the trainer programs, you start things, okay, this is great, we've held it, but I can't keep this up forever. I want to be able to go on vacation. I need to train so-and-so on how to do it this way, because doing it this way, this keeps it up here, right? So you're trying to keep all that up. And we should not be weary in well-doing. This works hard, right? We talked about our head, our hand, and our hearts today. And y'all, you're not going to achieve some of this stuff you're working on. Are you ever going to reach the end? Right? But for your part, right, you can refine it enough that hopefully then it could be scaled to other parts in Florence County, Abbeville, Aiken, Allendale, all those, Anderson, Bamberg, Barnwell, all these other places, which then hopefully will help the state and the region and the nation. All right? So we're thinking through all those things. So you have these worksheets as a handout and a resource. And Curtis, with the generosity of Cameron, you get the PowerPoint today. You're going to get the full PowerPoint. You can take it and change the name, whatever, but you're going to have the PowerPoint today. You're going to have these worksheets if you want to change them. So you're going to have these resources to help you, because the key is so what, right? How do we know if we're better off? I only know I did something if y'all actually use this thing. Okay, so my third quadrant is knowing that you're taking something from this and then you're applying. And then this is my contact information, and I'll be able to give feedback on some of your performance metrics if you want one for your specific group. But you also have the resource of the United Way with their metrics. Does that sound good to everybody? All right. Well, I am now going to pass the baton to Julia. Yeah. All right, let's take a 5-minute break.
All right, everybody. It's been about 5 minutes, so if you could find your seats, Julia is going to lead us through a demonstration of EC Impact. And as you'll remember, this is how you will submit applications for funding requests. So make sure to pay close attention, maybe jot down some notes, and I'll turn it over to Julia at this point.
Man, I don't know how you did this all day. You get your workout. Hi, everybody. I'm Julia. You may have seen me as a blue blur running back and forth between the cameras. I'm the Director of Community Impact and Marketing at United Way, so I do the creative stuff and also the collective impact stuff. And so today we're going to go through an introduction to EC Impact, our new grant management software. This is how you guys are going to apply for applications for grants through United Way, and I will show you guys how to get set up with that. So let's see, I may just not use the mouse here because that is a workplace hazard. Okay, so first of all, when the application first goes up, we are going to send out, or maybe even earlier once we get the results, once we get some of this stuff on the website. But United Way of Florence County has its own unique EC Impact site. And so you guys will need to visit that to see this screen, but we'll readily make that link available to everybody. And so first of all, you're going to see this screen. And what you're going to want to do first is create an EC Impact account. You just click that box right there, click Next, and then down here is where you would submit your EIN, so we can verify that you're a registered nonprofit organization. And it's going to take you through a bunch of other setup questions for a profile, but they're pretty basic information. And so I don't have a sample EIN, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. But once you have your profile set up, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, this is what you're going to see. So first up, you can change things in your profile, like your name, job title, your email addresses, phone numbers. In your user profile section at the top left, if you want to change your password, just go right next to it to the change password. In your home, you have this calendar and upcoming events, so likely the really important dates for the application, like say the application deadline will be on this calendar. And any news and updates will be down here. We don't have the dates filled in because, as Cameron mentioned earlier, we're still getting those solidified, but by the board meeting on Thursday, we will have those dates done. Under agency profile, this is going to be your basic information about your agency, so your name, your website, your addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, all of that jazz. And then under contacts, this is your section for your agency contacts. Anybody in your organization that you want to add to this, you can go ahead and they can either join independently or you can add them directly from this menu. So if you want to add someone, you can say add new contact. The primary contact is exactly what it sounds like. It's the person that we would reach out to first in emails. And they basically have admin permissions for your EC Impact site. And there can only be one primary contact. So you want to make sure that it's someone at the top of the chain instead of an unpaid intern. But not that those aren't great. I've been there. It's awesome. But and then here you can customize if you want them to be included in emails and what kind of position they have in your organization. They've got a long list there, their name, everything like that. And then also, if you want to create an EC Impact login for them, like what we were doing earlier where you enter your EIN, if you want them to be added to your organization, you can just check this box right here. And once you click Save and Update, I'm not going to check this because there's no information there, but once you click Save and Update, an email will automatically be sent to the email address that you enter in for your contact, and they'll be sent login credentials so that they can log into EC Impact, change their password, but it's a really simple process for that. I, in fact, did just a test earlier, and it's pretty self-explanatory, the step-by-step process of that. But, for example, all right, so we'll exit that. Under program profiles, we will come back to this once we get to the application, but this is where, say if you have multiple programs in your organization, they would show up under this section. Granted, you'll need to enter them into this section, but this is where you can view them on the list. Then, under training resources, this is going to be super helpful because I know this is a lot of information flying at you today. So if you ever get tripped up on any of the EC Impact stuff, we have a site training manual with plenty of screenshots showing you how to navigate to each thing, and it's also super helpful. So that will be going up as well, and you guys will have that resource for applications. Now, to get the application, first you need to go through a screening section. It's not very robust. You essentially answer these questions. Is your organization a 501c3? Does your organization have a board of directors in place? Does your organization serve Florence County? And so let's just go ahead and check yes for all of these. Let's say we're the STAR student nonprofit organization that does all of the things. And then once we click next, we say yes, this is correct, complete registration, and there we go. The grant application has been completed. Or not application, but the request for application has been completed. Now that we've done this, and United Way knows that you are a nonprofit organization, you gain access to this page, the application page, where you can add your programs. Now this is very important because this is what tripped me up the first time when I was testing this. If you have multiple programs in your agency, in your organization, you do not submit separate applications for them. You submit them all in the same application, but the way that you can distinguish between them is by adding a program using this button right here. So you create a new program. Let's just say test 1. One-handed typing is a skill. Okay, save and complete registration. Complete registration. And once, and of course you'll want to fill out those fields, but for the training we'll skip past that. But once you register a program, this whole section will appear where you can enter your program information, your additional funding sources, your marketing information. You may notice that this is eerily similar to your one-page application. So if you notice that about half of these are missing, that means your program has probably not been registered yet. So that could be a good check to just make sure that it's up there. And then also, let's say you have a second program. Let's say you have an activities for youth program and you want to add that. Then you go ahead, do the exact same process here. Let's say, I'll call it test 2 because we're being original today. We complete the registration there and continue. And now we have the exact same set of forms for program 2. So the agency information up here will remain the same. This is basic stuff like, of course, your EIN, address, mission statement, website, all of the stuff that won't change based on your programs. And then if at any point in this application you're thinking, this is a lot and I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, I have a question, there's a feedback button right here on the right side. You can have praise, problem, suggestion, or other. I'll be real with you, I don't know if I've ever used a praise feedback function, but it's there, you know, if you ever, and it'll go straight to me. So if you're ever just like, Julia, I hope you're having a great day. I mean, I will not deny that. I will gladly accept praise feedback, but usually the problems or suggestions will be what you're looking for there. So if at any point you got some questions about anything on the application, I mean, this is all new to us too. We're still working out kinks, so I'm sure there are going to be some questions along the way. So feel free to send some feedback, type your message, hit submit. And then, of course, we have the training resources there as well. But once you fill out all these forms, it should show you, as you go along, it'll show you that you're in progress if you start filling out some of the forms. But once you're ready to submit, a big red button will show up that'll tell you to submit, and then you can submit it, and that's how you know you're done. But, and then also if you want to view a printable version of the application, you can click this here. But yes, also under agency attachments, just going to show you how to add attachments here. You just choose a file and then link it to your computer. But, and then also if you feel like switching forms, like you want to go to a different form, you don't necessarily have to click on this application, I just do that. But if you want to go to the agency information form, you can just click switch forms, go to agency information. Okay, so I know that was a lot of information. Does anybody have any questions about the process? Or even if you want to see the process again, but like in slower motion, because I tend to talk fast.
Is it live right now, like we can go ahead and put our agencies in and that kind of thing?
So it is not live right now. I opened it for the purposes of the demonstration, but as soon as it is live, we plan on sending out an email to everybody, and we'll make it known when it's live, absolutely. Any other questions? Well, I will. Yes, thank you, guys. I will hand the microphone back to Cameron.
Okay, thank you guys for sticking it out all morning and into the afternoon with us. We really appreciate it. For anyone who is wondering how RBA metrics are going to work on the application, I think it's good to go ahead and be thinking about it, because you might be thinking, oh, well, I just learned about these RBA metrics. How can I already be tracking them within my organization? So for the application this year, you're going to start with projections. And then there's going to be a mid-year report where you'll report on, of course, where you are throughout the year. And then in the final report, we'll be able to compare projections with actuals. And then, of course, as we do this on an ongoing basis, we'll have some historical data to look at. All of that data collection methodology will be firmly embedded within your organizations. And so that's how we'll move forward from there. Any questions on anything we've talked about today? Yes.
You said it's a month-long process.
Yes.
The application.
Mhm.
So if the application's open a month? or
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but site visits would happen within that month, or that's beyond the month?
It would be beyond the month. If there are site visits, asterisks. Any other questions? Thank you, Cookie. Yes.
If there are changes based on what was shared today to metrics and that sort of thing, will that be sent out to us before the application goes live, or we'll just see it on the application?
We are going to, let me think how to organize my thoughts. We're going to have a follow-up email sent out after this meeting to keep you informed and give you the resources that you need from this meeting. We're also going to revamp the website, so where you saw on the website that you could register for this event, we're going to flip that to how to apply for funding. And so you'll see a lot of resources there, and we'll of course keep materials up to date. So that will be where you look for application resources beyond the follow-up email. And then of course you'll see all the live updates on EC Impact when you apply as well. Any other questions?
I think the question, Cameron, was this is a draft, and we'll look at this, and they will get an updated version of this document, or it'll be...
We will put it on the website, yes.
The updated version of this will be placed on the website, where your feedback was looked at for this meeting.
Yeah.
All right. Is results-based accountability hard?
No.
No, right? It's just a different way of thinking. It's a different way of thinking.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll be in touch with follow-up materials, and keep an eye on our website and for alerts that we've gone live. Woo.